Hey, what's going up, guys? And welcome back to my workbench. Hey, what do you know? 2 videos in a row with the same shirt on. Ponder that for a moment. Anyway, usually I talk about an update, what I'm doing right now, but I'm going to take a brief intermission and take a break from what I'm working on. And I took a model from one of my stash, and I like to share it with people and tell you what it's about and what I'm up against. And I used to do this for a modelers group out on Facebook. For you guys that wonder if they're coming back, yes, it's back. However, it's time to go on an international scale with this. Can't believe I'm actually saying that, and I cannot believe I'm actually sharing this with the rest of the world. So this is all new and exciting to me again. So anyway, without further ado, I am bringing back Tales from the Stash. Now, long story short about that. Like I said, mentioned before, the stash, there it is. I pick a kit from my shelf and I share it. And today we are going to do this one. This is from Kinetic. This is Kinetic's F16 kit. Now, this came out in the mid-2000s, and this is actually one of the first kits ever molded by Kinetic. And it's a pretty good kit. This is a unique kit in a lot of respects. Because now, let's do a brief history. F-16, we already know about it, over 5,000 built, serving over several air forces in the world. One of the best fighters, workhorse, and it all started off as just a simple, lightweight fighter, an alternative to the F-15. And it just went from there. And it's a great fighter. They're still producing it out at the former General Dynamics plant. Now the Lockheed Martin plant used to be General Dynamics out in Fort Worth, Texas. And if everything goes according to plan, it will continue to the latest block, whatever, of the F-16, which is known as which will be the block 7072. We'll figure that out as it goes. Anyway, now as for the kit. Now, as for the F-16 kits, there's tons available. For a long while, Hasegawa was the top dog. They were the only one that had an accurate and up-to-date F-16, from the A all the way to whatever the latest variant was. The kit itself was the basic moldings, but they kept adding on parts, more parts, even more parts. However, they didn't add ordnance and the like, but the basic kit as a whole, nice kit, very well detailed. However, it's starting to show its age. But you got to keep in mind, the Hasegawa kit was designed during the 80s before the days of AutoCAD, which is quite a remarkable feat. Fast forward to the mid-2000s. Tamiya came out with a 1/48 scale F-16 CJ Block 50 kit, the be-all, end-all of F-16s. However, they only made 2-3 more block variants from their Tamiya F-16 kits, and they didn't make any two-seaters. So all you had was the F-16C Block 2532, Block 30, and Block 5052. But they did put out Thunderbird F-16, which is really nice. Kudos to Tamiya for that one. So, and as for all the other variants, this is where Kinetic steps in. Now, I have a few of the Kinetic kits out there. I have their F-16A and B kits for Naval Top Gun. I also have Israeli F-16D. I also have an Israeli F-16C Block 40, which I tinkered with on and off, and from my experience, it's not a bad kit. So, without further ado, let's show you what's in the box. Anyway, now, excuse me. Kinetic's initial release, they came up with an F-16AM, which is a NATO. They came up with the F-16D, which is Block 40, which was for Israeli service. They also did all sorts of variants. And if you have enough of the kits, you could basically build anything, anywhere of the F-16A, Block 15, all the way to the Block 60-62 that was specifically made for the United Arab Emirates. I mean, you could do almost anything because they packed so many parts in a box. I'll give you an idea. That's a lot of parts. That's not including the instructions and the decals. So let's show you what's in it. Let's show you now. This version, apologize for my stumbling across. This version is actually for the Republic of China. These refurbished F-16s, I think they were used by the Air National Guard. I don't remember offhand. They were refurbished, and a whole bunch of them back in late 90s, early 2000s were shipped to Republic of China, which is Taiwan, the island of Formosa. Do your research, Google it, you'll understand. And they were given all the greatest updates to the F-16 NATO standards, which is European F-16s, and along with other options that the Taiwan uses for air defense. And they also, with this kit, they give you an option. They give you the option of building a single-seater or a two-seater. Now, this is pretty good for Kinetic. Now, let's go through the box again. This is your basics. This is the basic wing and the airframe right here. Now, the upper half of the fuselage, if you can see carefully, well, first I gotta pop this open. They show, they have half of the upper fuselage, but they only have half of it. There's a reason for it. You can either build the two-seater or the single-seater. This is why they separated from forward fuselage from the rest of it. Of course, lower half. Now, here's the rest of the parts. The tail comes in several different pieces. Good reason why. Fuel tank, options for a drag chute, other parts where you can put bird slicer antennas or whatnot. As for the intake, now you're going to notice all along here the ejector pin marks. These are actually reverse and knockout pins. Now, they're relatively easy to remove, but on the other hand, they can be a pain in the butt. This is actually a good thing because sometimes it's very difficult to fill in knockout marks, and in this case, they have them exposed. All you gotta do is sand them down. If there's any screw-ups, all you gotta do is just fill it on you. Now, back to the kit. What I showed you right there was half the parts, including the centerline tank, flaps, and other things here. It also shows you parts for the intake, which is actually the whole intake from beginning to end. Here is the option number 1, F-16A. Gives you the single seat, side consoles, cockpit detail in there including the tub. Let's see, and here's option 2, which you can build as a two-seater. Includes all the parts you need. Ordnance. Now the ordnance, most companies have been skimping on the ordnance. Haskell was well known for skimping ordnance. Kinetic, they give you a full weapons loadout. They give you cluster bomb. Right here you got parts for the cluster bombs, dumb bombs, smart bombs, laser guided bombs right here. They give you up to 4 trays of this. AIM-120s, which is the advanced fire, forget, medium-range missiles. AIM-9 Sidewinder, the latest AIM-9 Sidewinder. They give you 2 types of rails. One's like this and one's like this. This is the old-style railing that the F-16s usually had. Sometimes in the mid-90s they changed the launch rails around so they can carry either the AIM-120 or the AIM-9. They beefed them up, starting from, I think, the Block 40 on. I'm not too sure about that. But regardless, they retrofitted a lot of the earlier Block F-16Cs and from that point on. But there's 4 of these, so where you can build up to 4 of each. You also have train them, and here's ordnance set number 2. Pair of fuel tanks. They have the JDAM bomb, which is GPS guided. A bigger laser guided bomb, pylons right here. Ejection seat, Maverick missiles. Check your references because some F-16s are wired and have the software to carry the Maverick. Some do not. Or if you don't want to use these arms, you can save them for like an A-10, F-15E, which is a beautiful thing. I'll be discussing those because I got a couple of them in the stash. Now, this version, since it's the F-16A or the B, that variant only used one style engine, which was the Pratt & Whitney 100 turbofan series. And even though they upgraded it over the years, it's still the same style engine. So, and it's easy to tell by the exhaust and by the intake. The intake's not wide. And this one is no different. So you can tell these parts are specifically for the narrow-mouthed F-16. Pratt & Whitney engine-equipped F-16. Starting here, there's your engine, matter of fact, there's your exhaust cone there. There's the intake. This, like I said, this is narrow. I actually have the F-16B Block 40 Israeli, which has the General Electric engine, which gives you a bigger, wider mouth intake and a different style exhaust cone on the back, which I will get back to in a little bit. And like I said, really a block F-16, older style landing gear, older style gear doors. The neat part about the Kinetic with their landing gear is they molded the hubs and the tires separate, so you could paint them separately. No more masking or no more careful masking or messing around. But on the other half, you still got to do some work. Now with this version, since it's the Taiwan F-16 or Republic of China, they give you certain parts that are not in other F-16 releases that they did. Which is, for this one, they include ECM pod, which is right here. This is the later version of the ECM pod. Another ECM pod, which gives you two styles of the bottom half. You got this one, and you got this one. This is still the same, separate pieces, once again. Gives you a paved penny pod, which I think is for laser guidance. They also give you lantern pods, of course, lantern, a lightning pod. And since, like I said, since this is the F-16A, it gives you the choice of standard F-16 or air defense version F-16, as you tell by the bulges in the tail fairing. And since this is the Republic of China, or Taiwan, this one gives you the option of the AIM-7 Sparrow, which is sees plenty of use out in Taiwan, including the rail for it. This is a nice touch. Thank you, Kinetic. Now, as I mentioned before, wait a minute. Since we got this version, decals for ornament. This comes very, very handy. And of course, decals for Taiwan. These are really nice. I've used the decals. They're not half bad. They're not bad, but they're well printed. They work well to solvent and setting solutions for decals. Oh, and I forgot about the clear parts here. This is clear parts provided. This kind of bothers me. They should be wrapped separate, but since these are clear parts and clear parts, it's not a major problem. However, because of the molding technology, there is a seam that runs along here. So, unless you're familiar with molding seams, this can be a pain in the butt to remove. So, we'll not get into that. Of course, here's the instructions right here for the kit. The bigger one, there's also bigger ones depending on what version you get, because they got so many variants of these kits available. This is the updated parts if you're going to intend on building the two-seater, including the what you got here, painting guide, and marking guide. Oh, did I forget to mention, Kinetic also added a turned brass kit tube if you don't feel like finding the kit provided one. I don't know if you can see it. If you do, right there. That is a nice touch on Kinetic's part. Now, as for the kit itself, I got one I've been tinkering on and off with for the past year and a half. It's the best way to treat this model kit is kind of like a limited run, because even though it fits well, some areas fit well, you can tell from the sprues, they're thick. There's a lot, like I said, the ejector pin knockout pins. You're going to have to do a little bit of work to clean everything up. The fit's going to vary. Best way to describe the fit is bipolar. Some parts are a dream. They go together well. Others, it's a fight to the bitter end. Particularly the intake area. That's an adventure. But I got it done. Took some work. The detail itself, it's a little bit on the soft side. You know, some areas it's perfect. Other areas I would recommend getting some aftermarket parts for the cockpit, especially an ejection seat and photo etch parts. But otherwise, this is a great kit, and it's one of those, do we really need another F-16 kit? No. Do we want one? Yes. Because this one is also updated and quite good. If you want to backdate it, do your research. So, this is what I got for now. I will talk to you again soon. Happy modeling, and take it easy.